It's a good thing that you can see that.
Look, stealing has a good. It's
Not stealing, you're handing them out.
Yes. Purposefully.
Yes.
Purposefully distributing. Excellent.
Can you help passing anything on?
Thank you. I'm not sure how we're going to do this. I was hoping it was a little bit less poly. You never know what you're going to get for Yep. So I figured nobody usually sits in the front or on the end. I can't see him behind his back. I actually have my I have my second pair as well. Mars viewers, if you will.
So there, Farah, you didn't steal, you're regifting.
I am regifting. Thoughtfully.
One less.
See how good this is? Because, you know, everybody's got tools. Technically, everybody nobody has tools. I know. You don't do that anymore. That's why you can start to pull. So it doesn't
Alright, hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Design Thinking for Learning and Change. Your speaker today is Farah Valera. She's the one that just gifted you a whole bunch of pens and paper. A couple things to note is turn your cell phones down. If you can put them to silent, that would be great. And please be aware if you're getting up and moving around, things are plugged in all around the sockets. So Act 48 is also there won't be a code at the end. You'll have to go onto the website, P&C's website, go to attendee information, and there's a link to get Act 48 there. Okay. Anybody else need a pen? One more? One more pen? No? No takers? Can't throw it into the audience? All right. I guess this will be my pen then.
That is your pen. All right, thank you. Thank you, everybody, for coming to my presentation today. I know usually in the afternoon it starts to thin out, especially with the weather and people having stomach bugs. There's a lot of that going around. So welcome. Today I'm going to talk to you about design thinking for learning. And I'm going to walk through what design thinking is and how it belongs in education and how it hasn't really lived in education properly, so how we can implement it into education. I have the and change because I think that practicing design thinking is the only way to really get a good gist of what it is. So I'm actually going to present to you a little bit about what we did in a project and how my students used design thinking to make substantial change. And then I'm going to have you do an activity, which is why the pens and paper came around. I realize everybody's very connected to technology, and we're at a tech conference, but I'm actually going to have you cutting things and gluing things and taping things and writing and things like that. So I think it gives us the opportunity to practice a model in a way that's very helpful. So I took this picture at a hotel in San Francisco, and it was at the end of the hallway by the elevator. So every time I got out of the elevator, this was the first thing I saw. And then when I waited for the elevator, this is what I stared at. And the more and longer I looked at this picture, I was like, holy smokes. There's a lot going on here. There are faces and I think geese, deer, maybe some horses, lots of hands, eyeballs. All right, so there's a lot of things happening in this image. And when I looked at this, I said, what on God's green earth was this artist thinking when they made this? And I think sometimes this is what our students think about us. So what I did was I was looking at this and I stared at it for, are you giggling because it's true? Okay, I know. Especially my students, bless their souls for being stuck with me and going on these crazy journeys with me. So I stared at this for a long time and I tried to figure it out and I had some trouble. But I was thinking there was a lot of thought and design that went into creating this. So how can we use some ideas or some of these bonkers things to help our students? So first, who am I? My name is Farah Valera. I am the Professor of Practice for Instructional Technology, Instructional Design, and Teacher Ed at Lehigh University in Bethlehem. And I primarily teach instructional design courses and tech-based design courses. So my students don't do a lot of paper writing. They build things, they try things, they test things, they fail, and then they do it again. So I primarily have teachers or students who are learning to be instructional technologists or designers. So if you've ever worked with grad students or thinking back to your times, if you were a grad student, if you hear the word, it's great to fail, what do you start to think? Oh gosh. And every semester my students say to me, what do I have to do to get an A? And I'm like, well, I don't know, you know, just do the thing. Do the thing and do it to the best of your ability. If it doesn't work, that's okay. Do you think they believed me? They never believed me, right? I taught a course in makerspaces, and we were sitting around. One guy was on a sewing machine. Another girl had a glue gun, and they were like, Farah, how do we get an A? And I'm like, you're using a glue gun right now. How do you think I'm going to score you rigorously on your glue gun techniques? And they were panicking, but they didn't take that step back. So this is what I do. This is who I am. And today I want to talk about design thinking, because I believe I see myself as a design thinking constructivist who utilizes some mashup of design thinking and backwards design in creation of my courses and creation of my learning materials and things like that. So what I'm going to talk about is what design thinking is, why I believe it belongs in education, and then to demonstrate, my students took a course in design thinking for learning, and they took a project through all of the stages and phases of design thinking to make meaningful change in our College of Education. So we'll talk about the steps, I'll talk about how we generated change, and then you're going to have an opportunity to dive into design thinking in a very short period of time. So when I think about design, and I think about design thinking, teachers are probably the best designers out there. We usually think about design thinking in terms of software engineers or people who are creating innovative new products, or well, everybody at Apple who's doing the new iPhone, right? The iPhone 5 million, and they're doing design thinking every day. But in all reality, teachers are the best designers. Every single class you teach is going to look different than the class before, even if it's the same topic and the same subject. From class period to class period, from year to year, it always looks different. And the reason is that you understand your audience and you understand the needs of your students. And you iterate. So design thinking has 5 steps. And depending on the model that you look at, some of them will have a few more steps. I always put iteration in there. I always talk about failure at the end so that we can actually make these things feel a little bit more regularized. So this is one of the models from the Stanford Design School. And if you're looking for a resource, they have tons of resource on design thinking. And you can use this for students of all ages, and it's amazing. So we're going to walk through each of these 5 steps, starting with empathize, define, ideate, prototype, and test. Now, iteration isn't its own step, but I see iteration everywhere. And we revise and we revisit every single one of these steps and stages. So we'll talk about that as well. So normally when we think about building an instructional project or an activity or materials for our students, we think, all right, I'm going to go into class and I'm going to make this thing and my students are going to love it and we're going to move on. But when you're building it, it's not a straight line. It's usually some sort of mess. And if you ever look at some of the models or things that talk about design thinking, it's even messier than this. Because we take into account that one student who didn't get it, so next time we're going to differentiate a little bit better, we're going to personalize the learning so our students feel engaged and they feel it's meaningful. And we go through all of these steps and it's different every time. So when we look at these things, we can see that it's not a linear process. And that's one of the reasons why I struggle with some of these other instructional design models, and why I think design thinking really should live in education a little bit more than it does. So here is the challenge. My students, this is my math lab. Yes, so Yvonne teaches at Lehigh with me, and we have this room. And it's where the students would come to do their work, and this is my classroom. And if you notice, the rows are very narrow, and we have the giant Macs, and people would booty bump each other on their way down the rows to get to their seats. The tables are actually hardwired with electricity, so they can plug everything in, but you can't move the tables without hiring the electrician for $1,500 just to move a table 3 feet to the left. I'm not joking. And then if I say, all right, everybody, let's have a collaborative, hands-on conversation or build something, they have to peer between the screens, and you just see these little heads, and sometimes this person is rolling their seat into the aisleway. And this is where I've been teaching for years. And everybody who teaches in this room hates it. Everybody who takes a class in this room hates it. So we had a meaningful challenge. Oh, I didn't mention this either. Here's our screen. Here's the projector facing this way. Notice where the whiteboard is? At the back. There is a whiteboard behind the screen. Yes. Right in front of these tables. It's brilliant. And guess where I am? Back here, behind them. It was the worst room in the whole world. There's a really loud blower. There's like this metal stuff, and we have no windows. I'm sorry, we do have windows. They look out into the hallway where people watch in and look at us. It's fantastic. So it's the worst room in the world. Everybody hates it. So I said to my students, all right, friends, how would you redo this room? And they sat there and they said, well, can we just move to a different room? No, we need all this stuff, right? So what we did is we used the design thinking process, and we spent the entire semester in the hopes that we could present this to someone who might listen and get a different setup in this room. So the first thing, the first thing that they did was they started to brainstorm and think about what the problem was. All right, so I said, all right, well, what are your problems with the ambiance of the room? And you could see this color on the back wall is called pumpkin spice. It's very hip and trendy from 1991-ish, right? So pumpkin spice. It had a carpet that had 5,000 coffee stains on it. Actually, one of them looked kind of like a murder scene happened there. It was bad. So I said, all right, what's wrong with the color, the lighting, the sound, the clutter, and the feel of the room? Because we were very packed in there like sardines. What about the lab and classroom? We have to keep the computers because it's our lab. But we want to also have a classroom space. So what are your thoughts about that? And then thinking about how to have an active learning space, what about the mobility and the flexibility of the space? So they brainstormed, they walked through it, they identified some of the problems that they felt, and they had an idea of where to start. Now, if you ask anybody in the College of Ed, they have lots of thoughts and feelings about this, so they also had those ideas. So we said, all right, we've got to figure out what they want and what they need. So we started with the empathy phase. Because design thinking is human-centered, it focuses on finding out what the audience wants and needs. And it does that through empathizing with them. And that's not just asking them questions. It's not just doing a survey and saying, tell me about this. Empathy requires you putting yourself in the position of those other people. And you really have to feel what they're feeling. Fortunately, my students utilized the room too, so it was pretty easy for them to have and understand those feelings. So in the empathy phase, what my students did was they surveyed all of the faculty and staff that they could get their paws on, and they asked them, what do you think about this space? And they designed the survey. They also created something called an empathy map. And an empathy map is a really great way to capture a lot of data in a short period of time. So what we did was, we used one of my other classes that had 15 students. We put an empathy map on the board, and my students came in and said, okay, when you're in this space, what do you see and hear? And what do you think about as an ideal learning space? What do you want to do in this space? What do you dream of for the space? How does this ideal space make you feel? And then thinking about what do you like and what frustrates you about the current space. So you can Google empathy maps, and it's usually think, hear, see, do, pains, and gains. And you can capture a lot of data. So you get sticky notes, people will think through each one of these things, walk up, stick them in the spot, do a gallery walk again, try to organize those, and you have a data set. It's just one data set. So we had an empathy map, we had survey data. Was that enough to get started? We think so. So we continued on to the define stage. In the define stage, what we try to do is we try to find themes, needs, and insights from all of those data that we just identified in the empathy map and in the survey. So we were able to go through all of those pieces on those little sticky notes that we gathered from a sample size of 15, as well as our large-scale survey that hit faculty, staff, and students. And we were able to pull out the themes, needs, and insights and define a problem statement for the space. So we said, all right, people want something collaborative, something comfortable and cozy. They want multiple use with functionality. They want it to have a nice look, feel, and sound. The room was always really cold, so they wanted it a little bit warmer. Isn't that sad that one of the things was make the room warmer? Oh boy, I know, it was bad. They wanted convertible, adjustable, movable furniture. They wanted a modern look and feel. We're College of Ed doing technology in a Mac lab. And we have pumpkin spice from 1991, and we can't move our tables or our chairs to talk to each other. So they wanted openness, access, noise reduction, a better view, which we can't do anything about. We're stuck with that. And from that, the biggest insight were a need for collaboration, a need for flexibility, and a need for access, because people wanted to be engaged. They wanted to actively learn in a space that could allow them to connect with each other. It was amazing. They pulled out so much wonderful information. So we created, I can't even say we, they did this on their own, the problem statement that said, today's learner requires a supportive environment that both enhances collaborative academic experiences and strengthens the use of technology in revolutionizing the field of education. What? COE grad students request a space that is inviting, stimulating, and customizable or flexible to meet their personalized educational goals. Holy smokes, they blew my mind. And I was like, wow, you guys, you pulled out this one statement from all of those data and you made this saleable. You made me have the opportunity to stand in front of people who will listen with something backed with data. I was blown away. So what do we do? Step 3 is ideate. What you do in the ideate phase is you have to start generating as many ideas as you possibly can. Brainstorming, brainwriting, these are 2 ways that you can ideate a bunch of potential solutions. When you ideate, you don't want to go for the low-hanging fruit. You don't want to say, let's just get a paint job and keep it the way it is. You want to find the crazy, wild, out there ideas, and you want to reach for them. The weirder, the better. Believe me, my students are used to that, right? So when they went through those data in their survey, they found that people are really, really interested in, all of these pieces like ambiance and the tech and all of these things. So how do we generate some possible solutions? So what we were going to do was we said, all right, here are some of the ways that we can possibly demonstrate some change. And we'll find out, and then we'll start prototyping as the next step. And we'll figure out what everybody prefers, but we're going to go big or go home. So they developed low, medium, and high fidelity prototypes, which is in the next step. And they gathered card images for card sorting activity. This is just some of them up here. They had, I think, 17 different images, because we eventually, I'll get to that in a second. They mapped the classroom in both 2D and 3D. So they took out the measuring tapes, measured the classroom. They created the classroom in 3D in Google SketchUp. Then they created another version, bless you. And then they 3D printed our classroom. They 3D printed our tables that actually have the chairs and the computers on it. They 3D printed the tables that were along the walls. They 3D printed my teacher station in the back of the room. And this is, to scale, my classroom. And it blew my mind. Like, oh my gosh, every day I came into this class and I was like, what have you done? This amazing, wonderful thing. So what we did then is we created a bunch of prototypes. So as I said with the ideation phase, or stage, you want to generate as many ideas as you can. And what we normally do is we pick 1 or 2 of those ideas and turn them into prototypes. Now when I wrote on that last slide about fidelity, low fidelity prototypes usually include paper, sketches, maybe some index cards, sticky notes. You're not spending a lot of time or money to generate this. And this idea comes from software designers who don't want to build an entire computer game or a mobile app or something and find out people hate it or it doesn't work. So you do it on cardstock, you do it with tape, you do it with cardboard, and you get the low fidelity prototype. So we wanted to do that, but we also wanted to do some medium and higher fidelity prototypes. So we had multiple rooms that were to scale. I mean, even our desks were to scale. And we had multiple rooms that we could move around in any number of ways, and we could have other people move those things around in other ways and tell us what they were thinking. So we did several different prototypes, and we then, oh, here are the cards I mentioned. And all of those dots on those cards mean something. So they were attached to the group who used the dots in terms of which do you find is the most flexible, which do you find is the most comfortable. And I don't remember what the dots mean because I didn't run this group. So all of the students who ran this were then, tallying up the sticky dots. And they said, all right, this is what people envision the room to be. This is how they like it. They want this in terms of ambiance, this in terms of flexibility, blah, blah, blah. This is our Google SketchUp of the classroom. This is our 2D version. And the tables and the chairs, and here's the pole. And then here are some of the 3D models with all of the extra pieces. So, what we did then was test. And what testing means is you take those prototypes and you actually have people come and play with them. So if you're doing something like building a mobile app, you have somebody play with the mobile app. If you have a game that you're creating in whatever platform, in Scratch or Unity or something like that, you have them come and play test. And the idea of testing is to get feedback without leading them. So you're not interviewing them, you're not really asking questions, you're guiding them briefly, but you're saying, okay, give me a little bit about, what you're thinking, and then just do it. If you're play testing, you want to just watch them do these things. So we had a focus group. And the focus group came in, and they hit 3 different stations. One station had the card sorting, where they were putting the sticky dots on the images. And these are my 2 students who were conducting the research, and these are our participants. We had another station where people manipulated the 3D version and moved things around. This is Dr. Garrigan, who just did a presentation on VR. And these are my 2 students who ran this station. And then we had another station that played with the 2D version. And these 2 are my students, and this young lady is also my student, and these are my participants. And we had a whole bunch of people moving through these stations. And the people who were monitoring the stations, you can see this young man who is actually doing a presentation right now, also on VR, and he's over in that room, one of my students, he's delightful. He's recording this and pulled those data from his recordings. This young lady was taking notes, and they went through all of these things through their focus group and gathered more of those data. So then we all rejoined the group and we had a discussion, and we pulled out their thoughts and their feelings and their reflections, and then they asked us questions as well. So how did that lead to change? This project began in fall of 2017. We spent the entire semester and wrapped it up in December of 2017. In January of 2018, I met with the Center for Innovation in Teaching and Learning and our Learning Technology, LTS, Learning Library Technology Services. They provide all of our tech support. And I went to them and I said, my students did all of this work. This is what they found. They want all of these things that I already mentioned. So how is it that maybe you can help? And they said, this is awesome. Your students are fabulous and amazing. And I said, I know. And they said, we will help you and support you. So we then took the show on the road. So now I had my students' report and their information. We had LTS and CITL backing us. And we went to the Dean of the College of Education. And we had a meeting and said, this is what my students found. LTS is willing to participate. How can you help? And they said, all right, let's do it. And I said, what? Okay. You're serious? So here's a reminder of what it looked like. Here's what happened halfway through. So this was in the summer of 2018, because nothing happens quickly, right? And this was in August of 2018, where they're ripping up the floor and they changed some of the paint. And let me tell you a story about the paint. They said, Farrah, the paint is going to cost an extra $1,500 and we just can't afford that. And I'm like, wait a minute. We're going to make all of these changes with technology and $1,500 just to move a table and all of these other things. And you don't want to, I was like, do I have a budget? Where's my budget? Take my money, right? They wanted to keep it pumpkin spice. It was bad, so bad. And,
Can't you just go in there with a couple cans for $20?
No, because I said, I'll do that on the weekend, and they're like, we'll fire people. People have gotten fired. And I'm like, are you kidding me? If you fall off fire, Farrah, it's the end of the world. Yeah, so I didn't get to do that. But it was the painting services that they weren't, what do they do when they get called for bids. They weren't doing that. We used the same painter for 500 million years. So I said, this is just, you know, not acceptable, and I threw a little temper tantrum. Not that anybody cares when I throw temper tantrum, because it's not a big deal. But they eventually said, well, yeah, I guess you're right. Pumpkin Spice Forever is back. And I said, thank you, because I'll probably retire, and it will still be Pumpkin Spice if we don't do it now. So, this is what the room looks like now. And this is not my favorite picture of the room, and I'm going to tell you why. So we reversed the projector so that it faces the back of the room. Now, obviously it covers the whiteboard in the back, but you can see in the corner, right here, this is a computer. And it's on wheels, so I can move it anywhere. And we scooter it all over that room. All of the computers for the lab are along the walls, so I lost only one computer. I had 12, I have now 11. Okay, I'll take it, right? It just went into our doc student office, so I didn't lose it officially. Now, I don't love this picture because you can see our tables are in rows. Those tables have wheels, and we scooter those all over the place as well, along with the chairs. So it looks like it's like a regular classroom, but it's not. We take those tables everywhere. We take them into the hallway, we take them down the hall, and we scooter them around. What's better is that those tables are whiteboards. Those whiteboards flip up so you can sit or stand in front of them and write on them. They're also magnetic, so we can hang things on them. So it made our space an active learning, meaningful space where it's flexible and mobile, and we're able to do things now. So we can take our Legos out, we can take our Connects out, we can build with our robots, we can 3D print in the corner, but we can actually use the space differently. People are standing, people are moving, people are taping stuff together and glue sticking in a way where they're not in each other's way. So it was fantastic to go through all of these pieces. It gave my students a sense of pride as well. So at the end, or the unveiling for the fall 2018 semester, the room was ready to go. So I printed out this big poster of all of my students who worked on this project. And I didn't tell them about it. And I invited them in, and they saw this hanging up there, and they're taking pictures of the room, and they're taking pictures of the poster. And it's not a small poster, it's a pretty good sized poster. So everybody who walks by that lab sees that this is student driven. These students did this. I had nothing to do with this. And I get to see when people come into the room who haven't seen the room in a while and say, wow, this looks great. And then they're like, Bashir, you had something to do with this? This is amazing. Or when they come in and they say, yeah, you know, we worked on this project, and now people are excited about design thinking. And they're excited about pushing this into their own students, or I shouldn't say pushing this onto their own students, but having, oh yeah, okay, maybe I'm saying that. Having their own students use these things and these ideas to have that sense of pride, to have that sense of a meaningful learning opportunity. So, try it. Why do it? It encourages human-centered considerations and planning for any topic. It does not belong just in software development. It does not belong just where, you know, people are creating innovative products. It belongs everywhere. If we think about our audience first, it gives us the opportunity to find out how to make our projects, our activities, our students' learning experiences better. So, I'll give you a for instance. I once did, with undergraduate sociology students, a Timeline.js activity. Have you used Timeline.js? It's very cool. It makes these beautiful online timelines. It's attached to a Google Sheet template. It's delightful. It's pretty intuitive, except I didn't scaffold the activity. And my students hated it, and it was a disaster. I thought I knew what they would want. I had no idea. All right? So if I start thinking what my students want in the very beginning, by asking them, what do you want? What do you need? What do you expect to get out of this? Then it's going to make my experience and their experience so much better. So design thinking demands eyeballs and iterations for more polished final projects and products. For both you as an instructor or a designer or a technologist, and for your students. They're going to be more thoughtful when they realize that this is a real thing. They're going to take it very seriously. Kind of like project-based learning and how you live to get the audience at the end to see what you've done. This was a meaningful thing. It develops creativity, collaboration, critical thinking, and communication skills. They went through all of these pieces. They struggled to figure out what the right questions were to ask and to try to get people to participate in the focus group. They had feelings of frustration. They had feelings of connection with one another. And at the very end, now they see each other and they're like very close friends. And that makes me incredibly happy. For me, that alone is a win. They've developed an opportunity or a way to work together in challenging situations where they had to actually, make something that was going to go to the dean, right? So it was a big deal. So let's try this. Are you ready? Are you excited? All right. So thank you, Yvonne. So I gave lots of pens out. I did steal them, but it's not stealing because they are available for all of us to use. But people did see me take them, and I felt like I needed to explain. But I didn't. I just kept walking. So there are pens. Just kept going. There are pens. There are papers. Here's what I want you to do. I want you on this piece of paper to draw, design, figure out what you think oops, don't use those. Hold on. You're going to need those for something different. If there's little white pieces of paper, yep, there are some tablets around, so we'll get some of those around. The purpose of this activity is to go through the design thinking process. Oh, that's okay. You're going to use that to make something. Can I steal these? Here you go. Here you are. You're going to go through the design thinking process yourselves. You're going to understand a partner's thoughts or feelings, and you're going to make them a wallet. All right, so everybody has a wallet, probably. Anybody not have a wallet? No, of course not. We all have wallets. So it's something that's familiar to all of us, and it's something that we all, are pretty, when I'm buying a wallet, I'm very thoughtful about it. It's got to have the spot for my picture, and it's got to have a zipper for my change. I think about those things, which is why I have a wallet for 10 years, because I haven't found the right one yet. So you are going to spend a few minutes thinking about your ideal wallet. You can draw it, you can write down the things that it might have, and I'm going to time this. So this is your crash course in design thinking. And when we're done, then you're going to partner up, and you're going to interview your partner. And we'll go step by step practicing the design thinking process. Is everybody ready? All right, design your ideal wallet. Are you guys leaving? Nobody wants to design their wallet. You're like, we have a wallet, bye. I'm teasing you. I tried to get people to play at the makerspace yesterday too. Nobody wants to play with me. It's okay. I know, I was pretty sad.
I'm sorry, that pink story about how much difficulty
You know what though? It worked out in the end, and it is a beautiful. Yes.
This is a weird question. Define wallet.
Place to keep your stuff. So it could be a wallet where you keep your money. It could be the thing that is attached to your cell phone.
Okay.
It could be your wristlet.
Okay.
Could be whatever you think that you want it to be. Some people talk just about the thing that sticks to their phone. Got about 2 minutes left to think about your ideal wallet. Maybe it's got certain spaces for money or change or cards or driver's license. What does it need to have? pressure. Pressure's on. Yes.
Why do we have to draw it?
You don't have to. For me,
I'm saying, like, sometimes I make lists, like, well, it has to have this, but I don't know what shape it is.
yes, that's perfect. That's perfect. For me, everything looks like a stick figure. I draw nothing unless I'm forced to draw it. I'll make lists, I'll make bubbles, I'll connect things like nobody's business, but drawing is bad for me. So do the thing that works for you. All right. Next step. You're going to design something useful and meaningful for a partner. It works best with partners because it goes a little bit more quickly. But you can work in teams if you want to. So what I want you to do is you're going to practice empathy. Now when we do empathy, we can do empathy in many ways. I usually do one of three ways. I'll observe people, right? So classroom teachers are really good at understanding what their students want and need by watching them. But I love doing empathy maps, and I can also do focus groups or interviews. So those are the three key ways that I usually do some empathy mapping or understanding of what my audience wants and needs. So what you're going to do is you're going to partner up with somebody, and you are going to interview them. Tell me a little bit about your best wallet ever. What do you need? What do you want? And you're going to listen to them. And then they are going to swap and do the same thing for you. All right, so we're not going to do the second. Sometimes we do this in 2 layers. But you're going to just partner up, and you're going to have 3 minutes to interview them. They'll have 3 minutes to interview you. So this section is going to take 6 minutes. Make a friend. Partner up. Hi, stranger. My name's Susie. My name's you interview your other person?
Sites, just like the size of the yeah, it's one I've actually found one online. So instead of like hard spots, something where it can just slide out and get full up and stand a bit more. Which I have attached for the attachment. Cylinder, like, he's like pop on the little thing, like, down the side here, and just shoots it in. Yeah, like, strictly for chapters, that's apparently.
Alright. So, for the next step, and I've been eavesdropping on a lot of your conversations. Some of the things I noticed were a lot of you pulled your wallets out. That was fantastic, right? So this gets you thinking about, this is something that I really like, and this is, you know, it has to have this thing, and blah, blah, blah. It's really helpful for me to demonstrate. So that's excellent. Another thing that I heard, and I'm gonna point you out, is I don't think this is possible. And my head was like, yes, yes. You have a big job, my friend, in the ideate phase to make whatever that is possible. I didn't hear what it was, but I heard it and I was like, yes, make it possible. All right, so in the define stage, after you just empathized with your partner, what I want you to do is you're gonna say, what did I just hear? What were the themes that emerged? What are the needs that my partner has? What are the insights that I'm gonna take away? And how am I gonna turn this into a problem statement? You don't have to do the whole piece of the problem statement, but what I'd like you to do is think about, summarize, they need this, they need this, they need this, they need this. Because on the next slide, guess what you're gonna do? You're gonna come up with a couple ideas in an ideate phase. So pull out from your data analysis what you think you hear, and we're only gonna spend 2 minutes or 3 minutes doing this. So I heard this, they want this, all right? Yes?
What if what I heard was, he doesn't want a law at all, and we as a society just get rid of physical cars?
Oh, I love it! You're going to have to figure out how to make them something tech-based then. You have a very hard job as well. All right, 3 minutes. Define the problem. phase. In the ideate phase, we generate as many possible out-of-the-box solutions as we can. So again, this is where I always say skip the low-hanging fruit and go for the crazy weird thing, right? So find the thing that might be, you know, hey, I want these fancy tables that roll up and you can write on them, and I'm going to ask for them, and hopefully I'll get them, and surprise, I did. I was so excited. So we're going to skip this because I want you to actually build it. Yes. So, up in the front, there are materials. I've got heavy plastic. I've got foam. I've got glittery fancy cardstock if you want a flashy wallet. I've got other cardstock here in a number of different colors. Smaller cardstock, also in different colors. Felt and foil. So tech folks, RFID, we usually use the foil for that. But I'm not saying you have to do that because I want you to find the weird thing. I've got scissors, tape, glue sticks, paper clips, staples, rubber bands. Find your stuff and build a wallet. Ready, set, go. And I'm sorry that this is in a weird spot. I love tables.
All right.
You'll have to share scissors too.
First my life is
Oh, I think that I got tape, scissors, rubber bands.
I know.
Is there any foam left? Did I miss all
Oh,
of that?
look, it's right here.
Is that a really good size?
I saw the basics tapes.
Alright.
Stapler.
There is nothing we can do.
That is the attitude.
Tape and scissors. I would have brought stuff from my room if I really needed to.
You might have to borrow a couple staples.
How is your construction going? Excellent. Need better tools. I know. The child safety scissors, those are the best, right? Oh, yeah, that one you have to pull apart. You have to pull it apart. Not my favorite. Oh, yeah. Oops, sorry. I've got it. I already got it in myself.
It's gonna be good, dude. It's gonna be good.
All right, when you're ready, show your prototype to your partner. Oh, the wristlet. I know. I wish we had more time. Let's see, what have you got back there? Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, no.
Running into you. All right, if you have not, get some feedback from your partner about their design. Get some feedback from your partner. Thank you.
attachment. That is an important attachment.
All right, let me rein you back in for another moment. All right, let's come back for one more minute. And let me just wrap up by saying a few things about design thinking. So I do want you to keep talking to your partners if you get a chance to. But what did you feel or think when doing this? I know some of you were like, well, the materials are not the best, or I have an idea of what it would be, but I don't have the time, or whatever this is step one.
I think it's just cool that like her idea is something that I would have never ever thought of.
Yes. Excellent. What else? What else did you think or feel when you were doing this?
You didn't want to screw up somebody else's idea.
Yeah, right? Now we're invested in that other person. What else?
I got really invested in my idea and I totally forgot about who I was designing. I tried to convince her of how great my idea is, so my empathy factor needs work.
That sounds like something that I do a lot as a teacher. What? Go ahead.
As I was going through and talking through my design, I wanted to immediately revise it. I was like, oh, I changed my mind.
Excellent.
I have an authentic audience and someone that I really wanted to do well and do right by. So I think keeping the user in mind, like I wanted her validation when I was done, so I'm just working really hard to get that.
Excellent.
We had a unique collaborative experience because we were a threesome, so we were working really hard to kind of meld our ideas together. We were collaborating to create what we thought she wanted. So that was, and we did an amazing job.
Beautiful. So this activity is not mine. I'm not going to take credit for this. So you can see at the bottom here, this is from the Stanford D School. And we did this in 30 minutes. You can teach people how to go through the design thinking process in 30 minutes. You can do it in 90 minutes. You can do it an entire semester, right? So you can have these, it's not like project-based learning where you need plenty of time to do all of those pieces. You can do a crash course to get people thinking about how to empathize. And you even pulled that out. I wanted to think about my audience, and I wanted to do something that was authentic, and I wanted to do something that they cared about. So this is an opportunity to pull into learning people's ideas of what they really want and need. Does anybody have any additional questions? I have some cards. I'm happy to answer any questions, but I think there's another one right after us. Other questions, thoughts? Thank you very much. Thanks for playing Make the Wallet with me. I always, every time I do that, people run for the door because they don't want to do it.